Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Tier 3 FPRL. Wednesday nights always mean it's Tier 3 night, especially for you lovely viewers and, of course, the Tier 3 drivers out there. This week's race is around Imola. We were treated to a fantastic race around Jeddah last week, but we are back on European soil. We are around this famous circuit this evening. I'm once again joined on commentary by my regular Wednesday night co-coms and father of 2 children and guinea pigs, TJM 1992. TJ, how are we this evening?
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, I'm doing good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I felt like I bigged you up a little bit there with the guinea pigs, but I thought I'd explain to people that you might be hearing some guinea pig noises. No, it isn't TJ strangling his children. It is indeed guinea pigs that are making that high-pitched screech.
If you hear the guinea pigs, they definitely agree with what's going on screen.
Yeah, that's what we've come up to. That's what we've come up with, isn't it? When we've heard the guinea pigs in the background, it means that they agree with whatever the last person said. So technically there's 4 of us on comms tonight, but 2 of them will just be butting in every now and then. But let's focus on the racing then. 16 drivers, unfortunately. We were supposed to have 19, 3 people at the moment not showing up to the session. Hopeful to get them in by the end of Q1, of course, because with just 16 drivers means we'll only lose 1 from the first part of qualifying. I'm absolutely no expert when it comes to tracks, as everyone knows that tunes in on a Wednesday, but I imagine out of the 16 drivers it'll be very easy to have a driver crash in Q1, especially at your TG, a corner that's been given your name now. I don't know the official name for it. I know Revengezilla does, who I've commentated here with before, but now we've given it the name TJ Corner. It's the one we've just seen Willy Bum there get a little bit out of shape through. Very easy to lose it there. Do you think we're going to see any retirements from Q1?
Yeah, I think it's a very high possibility. It's a very strange corner, and yeah, a lot of people lose it there, and you might be unlocking and hit the wall as you spin round.
Definitely a possibility, and especially track limits. Definitely a talking point around here as well, along with traffic in qualifying. I know that we are in Q1. There is only 16 cars as opposed to a maximum of 20, but still there might be some people in the way of others on hot laps. So Hayder looks like he hasn't been impaired at all at the moment. They're coming around the final 2 corners. Very easy to invalidate here, and it's one of those tracks where if you go a little bit wide on the final corner, you will invalidate your next run. I know Hayder crosses the line and goes second fastest with a 1:16.9 as Maxi set a 1:16.4 for Williams just before that time over the line there then. So we are expecting to see some times in the 16s, low 16s maybe, perhaps into the 15s, perhaps someone might even try a 14 if they're thinking of advertising themselves for a higher division. Mongo crossing the line there with an 18.3 for Red Bull. Then we have had TS9 join us. It was slightly late, but he will get in for Q1, thankfully. So 2 drivers will now lose from the early part of qualifying. Based on what we've seen so far, TJ, we've both done commentary on the first 2 races of the season, so we've both had first-hand experiences. Most of these drivers on the grid, I appreciate there's a couple that we've seen a little bit less of if they joined us slightly later on in the season, perhaps not taking part in Bahrain, but is there anyone based on last time out at Jeddah that you've got your eye on this evening?
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got the likes of Sned, and he's certainly shown himself as a top contender. RSF1 Locker as well. He's shown some real good consistency, and unfortunately got a penalty in Jeddah, so knocked him down the place a little bit. But he had a good finish in Jeddah as well. I mean, it's probably worth noting that there is a big name here missing. I know he was only a reserve driver in the last 2 races, but Steffmeister has got himself promotion to Tier 2, which has resulted in TS9 being, unfortunately, being dropped to Tier 3.
That's a big name. Yeah, as you said, Steffmeister, who we know performed brilliantly at Bahrain and at Jeddah last week as well, as you correctly mentioned, getting that promotion then to Tier 2. So he won't be here this evening, of course. He'll be in action on Friday if he chooses to race in Tier 2. Should be said that I think he was worth that promotion to Tier 2, as we've seen his pace so far. And a lot of the guys will be relieved that he's no longer here, because of course it's one less driver to worry about for a lot of the drivers on the grid that didn't quite have the pace of him. Liam Cornforth crosses the line, but he did invalidate on his lap. So most of the drivers that haven't set a lap still in the pits. We're now up to 8 drivers then. So we will lose 3 now from the opening part of qualifying. Still just missing the one driver. I believe it is Track Racer who's having, I believe, some kind of power issue where he lives, therefore unable to get into the session. Fingers crossed he'll make it with, at least for the race, if not for the back end of this session. T-Jerk improves to the 1:17.8 then for the Alpines. His teammate Force Manure just on his hot lap. Now we will ride him with Liam Cornforth, who originally invalidated TJ. And as Liam Cornforth comes up to this chicane, which I know is so tricky to get perfect and get the maximum amount of time from that corner. Which corners really should we be looking out for in terms of invalidation in this session when we're watching hot laps of drivers?
So the corner you've just mentioned there, the last chicane, people should watch that one. As we go towards, I'll start from source to front now. Turns 1 and 2, invalidate there quite easily. I think there's following chicane afterwards as well, which is 3 and 4, I think. You can invalidate it there. In sector 2 you've got the double right-handers, where the place where you drop it you can validate it pretty easily there as well. So the most of the major corners on this track are pretty bad invalidation points.
Yeah, I think it's a, I think I've mentioned it before, I think it's a little bit of a feature of all the tracks that were added post-release of the game to have a little bit contentious corner cutting, I should say. I'm not a huge fan of the track limits around any of the 3 circuits that were added. Imola, I think, is right up there with the worst. We're on board with Swilzer at the moment, who's just started his hot lap there, looking to try and get through to the second part of qualifying. His season so far hasn't been too bad at all. He's not quite been at the front of the field, but he's definitely been punchy in terms of trying to get himself through into the latter part of qualifying. He's got a very good teammate alongside him, Nigel Piggle, who many are tipping as one of the top guys in this division. It'll be interesting to see in terms of his race. I think he's not quite, he was banned from qualifying, I think, in his opening race, and he didn't race last week either, so it'll be interesting to see how he performs for the Haas team this evening. As Swills is coming around the final couple of corners now, as TJ mentioned, so easy to invalidate here and then invalidate your next lap as well. Does run wide but avoids invalidation. He will cross the line, and it's a 1:17.4 then to put him 10th fastest then. I think at the moment, TJ, looking at those times on the left hand side of the screen, do you think that anyone kind of in the 16s is safe, or do you think even the likes of Locker, perhaps in 8th place, might be looking to do another run?
Yeah, I think you just hit the nail on the head there. I think anyone 16 is probably safe. Locker will definitely won't go again. That's more closer to the 117s, to be honest. But yeah, so anyone from Locker downwards will definitely need to improve.
Yeah, especially those guys yet to go out on a hot lap. We've got 5 drivers at the moment still to start the flying lap. Though being said, Skivid, I believe, has just started one down into turn 1. He is indeed. We're watching Mr. Whippy now. Wasn't with us for the opening race. He was here with us in Jeddah. I think he missed out on points last weekend. I think just haven't quite got the race results to hand at the moment as I'm looking at the Twitch chat as things are. But I think he's hoping for a good race here. I think I was speaking to him earlier on. I think he's hoping that he's plucky enough to get some lower points, perhaps 7th or 8th place. That's his target for today. I don't think he thinks he will mix up with the top guys, but yeah, hopefully we see some good performance from him today.
Yeah, definitely. I have to have a quick look at the results from Jed, and he finished P9. So he got himself 2 points, but I believe it was after a penalty as well. So yeah, you know, he is a good driver, and yeah, he'll definitely be in the mid pack for definite.
Well, let's see, coming up to the chicane, whether he does invalidate a deed. Very carefully through the first corner. I know you have to quite almost smack the first inside corner on that chicane there and take a little bit through the second. He kind of did it in reverse like there, but avoided invalidation. Coming around the final couple of corners now, does just about manage to keep it within the confines of the circuit, not touching the gravel trap at all there, and he will come over the line, although albeit with very little ERS as he ran out of deployment, and it's a 1:17.8 from the Red Bull driver then. So Red Bull at the moment 12th and 15th. Definitely have to go again, considering one of the drivers that haven't set a time yet, and we should probably discuss, is Snedden in the Alfa Romeo. We know how quick this driver is for sure. Out there on medium tyres, so feeling confident.
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's a very bold choice to use the mediums. We've seen this a couple of times already in the different tiers, and with Snedden himself, that the drivers are using the mediums in Q1 to give themselves more soft tyres in the remaining qualifying sessions. Obviously, he must be feeling very confident, although he's just going to be a little bit wide then, that he can get through on the mediums and save him soft tyres to set himself a good position on the grid.
Yeah, definitely. He's backed well off there then, so he will indeed be looking to perhaps do a warm-up lap on those medium tyres. Skivid we've just seen over the line then with a 1:17.1. Puts himself 10th fastest then with just under 6 minutes to go of this Q1 session. So I imagine a lot of those drivers towards the back end of the field now will be bolting on a fresh set of those soft tyres, looking to improve on those times. Another driver we've not seen out yet, TS9, who was a late addition to the qualifying, now coming out on track. And for those keen-eyed viewers who keep up with the Codemasters patch notes will know that supposedly he shouldn't have the qualifying time glitch, which has plagued us with drivers joining late in qualifying sessions. Hopefully he doesn't have that and we don't have to scream at him to retire. So I think he'll be okay there. We're riding with I'm Not Good at the moment in the Ferrari reserve driver for Ferrari this evening in place of, is it SDXR Racing? I always get it the wrong way around, I think.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Ferrari drivers. I always get it the wrong way. Might have hit the nail on the head there. It's all that work. Constantly putting people's pictures in when they want to change them every week. But here comes I'm Not Good then, as we said, the reserve driver for Ferrari this week then, coming round the final couple of corners onto the pit straight. Be interesting to see if he runs out of ERS. It looks like he's managed it a little bit better, but he hasn't quite managed a good enough lap time. A 1:17.6 definitely puts him on the cusp in terms of Q1. Snedden now, as we saw, struggling on his opening medium tyre lap, has gone round again. It will be interesting to see where he puts the car here, given the tyre disadvantage that he does have. He has, as I said, taken that extra lap to get them going. A little bit skittish off the final corner. They're coming over the line, and it's 8th fastest then with a 1:16.7. It's probably a good time based on the lap we've just seen from Snedden. TJ, to discuss the tyre difference. So between the softs and mediums, I have absolutely no idea what the difference is.
Yeah, once again, I don't know what it says either. I think the general is between half second to a second. Based on that, I imagine Snedden's, probably easily low 16s, if not pushing the 15.
Yeah, I think we'll definitely see some 15s by the end of qualifying. Max's time with a 1:16.0 at the minute, very good from the Williams driver, and of course we expect that from Magsy, who has been at the forefront of the pace in Tier 3 so far this season. TS9 has just invalidated off that final corner, TJ, and we were speaking about it. He's invalidated his next run as well, so will he get a time in then?
Oh, yeah, it's going to be really close. So I imagine he's going to want back off his lap completely to recharge his battery. Yeah, he should get a time in, assuming he doesn't invalidate off the final corner again.
Hopefully he'll look to rebuild the battery and perhaps save a little bit of fuel as well. Of course, we don't have accurate fuel information, unfortunately, but hopefully he has enough in there to go again. We're riding aboard with RSF1 Locker, then a 169. We thought the cutoff might be about a 117, but the likes of Force Manure and Skibid have both retired with 117.6 or 117.1 for Skibid. So Force Manure then, if TS9 can get the lap together, or the other two drivers in the bottom three at the moment will not take any further part in qualifying. Locker's slightly slower at the moment for his time. He's a little bit wide, but slowed down very, very tactically there to avoid that invalidation. But of course, it will cost him time as he's coming to the end of his lap then.
TS9 is out. He has come into the box. He had no fuel, and he isn't going to back outside of time.
TS9 out. Locker also choosing to abandon that lap, but believe it or not, with 1 minute 20 left in the session, the bottom three drivers aren't out on track.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure what's happened here. I mean, it's the guys have obviously got the times on screen, but it's a bit weird that, you know, for example, TS9 left it so late to set a lap. I'm surprised Mr. Whippy hasn't gone back out unless he feels like he needs to start from the back and work his way through.
Yeah, definitely. It's so strange, isn't it? I mean, I don't think we've had this season where the drivers that are at risk of going out have just chosen not to run a time. I know TS9 invalidated, I'm Not Good, and Mr. Whippy. I'm just surprised not to see them out. Even Force Manure retired early on, as we see Nigel Piggle come over the line now. Then it is indeed a 1:15.6, right at the death from the Haas driver there. Nearly 4/10 quicker than Magsy in second with that 1:16.0 then. So we did say it was the first qualifying session we have seen Nigel Piggle take part of, but if he can continue that form into Q2 and Q3, perhaps you would expect him to be one of the favourites for pole.
Yeah, definitely. You know, he was a Tier 2 driver last season, as something we might have seen, and he certainly wasn't shy of pace. And unfortunately got placed in Tier 3 for this season, and as you mentioned, we haven't really seen much of him yet. So yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what he can do here, and hopefully he can keep it nice and clean.
Well, we are at round 3 of this season now. Imola, of course, our third race. For those that have been following our season so far, it's probably, you would say, the last opportunity where drivers could perhaps trickle into another tier. I mentioned that, of course, because if we were discussing Nigel Piggle's pace, of course, by the end of this session, with a clear advantage, he might look to find his way into Tier 2 for the remainder of the season. Don't want to pressure you into any names here, TJ, but do you think there is drivers in Tier 2 that could perhaps find themselves in Wednesday night's races for the rest of the season? Or do you think kind of how things we have in Tier 2 at the moment, for those that have watched the race, it seems pretty competitive?
Yeah, it does. It's really harsh. You know, I mean, no disrespect to TS9, but I think he realised that Tier 2 is probably a bit too much for him, hence why he's been dropped to Tier 3. But look at the other drivers. It's there's not really a name I can pick out that, you know, is really behind everyone else. It's been so tight in Tier 2. You know, just look at the qualifying sessions. There's always 5 temps covering the entire field from P1 to P20. So it'll be really hard to choose someone if Nigel was to come up.
Yeah, the cut-off is so fine between tiers. We were seeing times in Tier 2 that perhaps could challenge some of those guys in Tier 1. That's a discussion for later on, as we see at the end of Q1. There is your classified results and for the session. Nigel Biggle, as we mentioned, fastest time with a 1:15.6, virtually a 1:15.7, 4 thousandths shy of that time. Magsy just under 4 tenths back from the Haas driver. Adrian in third. We typically see him towards the front of the field as well, so it's nice to see him there once again. Ojeda in fourth for Aston Martin. Al Gord as well, another driver who performed well at Jeddah last week, in fifth for the Mercedes, a reserve this evening. We have lost at the end of the session. I'm not good in the Ferrari. Perhaps living up to his name there, going out in the early part of qualifying. Mr. Whippy 17th for Red Bull. And TS9, who joined us a little later on, unfortunately not able to get a valid lap in then. Always a good part of the stream to go to the Twitch chat. Unfortunately, not quite as active as we've seen it the past few weeks. This Wednesday is a little bit dry, whether people are on the out on the piss midweek on happy hump day. We have got a poll for poll out in the chat for on the Twitch at the moment. About 80% left of the time on there at the moment. We have got a lot of votes coming in though. A big split between Nigel Piggle and Snedden at the moment. Snedden just edging it on the vote at the moment, so everyone that's watching, please get involved in that vote. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top. It should be mentioned Ojeda has got 4 votes as well. We've seen him on the pace, of course, previously. We've got I don't know how to pronounce a Twitch name. I know it's Laura. Lola Lulu.
I think we did agree to call her Laura last week. Or she gave us permission
we did
to.
Call her
anyway.
Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did call her Laura. My suspicions were right. She is the better half of the Locker pairing. I won't call her Laura Locker though, TJ. You made that mistake earlier on. We'll just call her Laura. We'll call her Laura for now.
Mrs. Locker, how you doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely brilliant to see you here, of course, in the chat once again, supporting your worst half around Imola this evening. He put in a good performance last week. Let's hope he can carry it on here. And we saw him win a race in Bahrain. I'm not too sure he'll be hoping to do that again, or even thinking he can, but you never know what will happen. We've got Carcass, who I should say is Nigel Piggle. That's a brilliant play on his last name. I'm not quite sure I agree with that. He says Biddle to tier 3. Well, yeah, I'm not too sure those would agree with you on that one, but why not? Why not?
Just while you were speaking about that, I was going to blow Force Mute, who dropped it at my corner. The double right-hander. Lucky has got no damage, but that hasn't now leave that lap wanted to go.
Yeah, we did briefly cut to that. But I thought he was just slowing down, to be honest. But no, he dropped it at the corner. Interesting to see. Then we look at the tyres then. So most of the field opting to do medium tyres, of course, opening part of Q2. The obvious discussion at this stage, TJ, will be the tyre choice. So all but 3 drivers at the moment selecting the softs, but 2 of those yet to come out onto the track. The rest of them on the mediums. Only Force Majeure, as you previously mentioned, had that mishap on his outlap, is on the soft tyres then. Strategy wise, I'm going to come to your expert opinion as a lover of Imola. You make that very clear to everyone you speak to, that this is your favourite track. What is the strategy to go for around here?
You can definitely do a one-stopper. I don't blame the guys for looking at starting mediums. The softs do. Well, I've got high tyre degradation, but I do personally find the soft tyres the better tyre start on, just to give that better launch. You know, and with the high fuel loads and mediums take a couple of laps to warm up. But yeah, you know, you can do softs to mediums or mediums to softs, and you can definitely get it work.
Yeah, no, I have to agree with you on that one. Of course, it all's dependent on safety cars. I think Imola, a track where we could definitely see some early safety cars at the very least. If we don't see them later on, we saw over the line Magsy set a 1:17.0 mediums. Very good time from him on those medium tyres. Force Manure with a 1:24.3, perhaps not representative, I would like to suggest, of his pace. Snedden has indeed though come out on soft tyres. That's a surprise for me. I was pretty certain he was going to choose mediums. El Gord then looks like he has had an incident. Trying aboard with David Lopez, see if we can see where he has dropped it. Oh, he looks like he's just got a little bit too greedy on that inside curb to that little chicane there, TJ, and he's just hit the wall.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue with the mediums that I was just briefly discussing, that they are probably the better tyre because they don't degrade as quick, but they take a lap or two to really warm up. And yeah, I imagine he's probably just trying to be a bit greedy on the corner, perhaps put his throttle on a bit too quick, and yeah, just the back end's gone.
So easy to do, and he'll be so disappointed with that. Unfortunately, El Gord out then of qualifying, and one less driver for the other drivers to worry about, it should be said, because he was pretty much nailed on, you would say, to make it through to Q3 with his pace. Locker also invalidating then on his first medium run, perhaps the pressure of the other half watching getting to him. And he's not quite able to live up to his performance. Snedden crosses the line with a 1:15.9, and a little bit shy of the Q1 time we saw from Nigel Piggle on those tyres, so perhaps a little bit more pace to come from the Alfa Romeo driver there. We've got most drivers out on the circuit at the moment, 12 out of the 15 it should be said, but only 5 setting a time then, and we can see that a lot of drivers have taken a few runs on the medium tyres then. Willie Bum now with a 1:17.6 on the mediums, but it does seem like drivers are struggling to get that first lap in, as you mentioned, TJ, on the medium tyres.
Yeah, it's like I said, that I think with the mediums you've sort of got to do 2 out laps just to get them in that right temperature zone. They do struggle to warm up around there. I don't know why, but yeah, I find if you do 2 out laps and a push lap, you get the grip you want from the car.
Yeah, we did see that from Snedden in Q1, it should be said, so perhaps it is just a characteristic. I think that's obviously due to almost the short lap as well, the nature of that. It does take longer to fire the tyres up. Locker has finally got that lap in, it's a 17.6 then. But of course we will lose 5 drivers from this session. We know one of them will be El Gord in the Mercedes. He is out after crashing into the wall, just where we're going to watch Locker go through now, and he shows you how it's done, El Gord, as he keeps it on the circuit and continues on in this session. So 4 more drivers we will lose from this session. It's anyone's guess at this stage, but the 4 drivers yet to set a time. I should say 3 now really, as Liam Cornforth goes third on a 1:17.0 is Adrian, Skivid and Swills, and then both Alpha Tauris then. I feel like they're going to leave it late in this session.
Yeah, I'm not sure why drivers are doing this. We always spoke about track limits being a lot tougher around here compared to most tracks, and all drivers are doing is applying that extra pressure on themselves by leaving it so late.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for that, to be honest. Why leave it late? Yeah, the pressure definitely builds, as you said, but Adrian showing that he has got the call to keep it clean, and a 1:16.4 from him, a very good lap from the Alpha Tauri, and he does finally get one. As we were discussing, it was on 2-lap-old mediums, and just taking that little bit of time to get them embedded into the circuit, perhaps, as we can see running low on fuel now as well, so he'll surely come into the pits, and he should be through with that time as well. While we were discussing Adrian there, RSF1 Lock across the line with a 1:17.2 from the McLaren then, so that might be enough to see him through as well. Of course, it all depends now at this stage of qualifying who comes in and puts the soft tyres on. Do you think we're going to see many drivers do that, TJ? Do you think they really want to start on the mediums?
I think that's a real tough one. Obviously, drivers have ran the mediums now, and they'll know how they will sort of feel from the race start. So I imagine the drivers that, you know, like your Adrian Magsy, Liam Arada, maybe Locker, might feel comfortable starting on the mediums. But below that, I think we'll stick a set of softs on. But then that might force the hand of the top drivers to put softs on as well.
Yeah, of course, if we think the delta is around, I'd say it's around towards the 1 second mark in terms of tyre difference. I think I've seen that number come out the air somewhere before. Might be taking a slight punch in the dark with that one. You see that Nigel Piggle in 7th place. He's on an outlap on soft tyres. And we thought he had the pace in Q1, but clearly struggling on that slightly harder medium tyre. Then we are riding with Swills at the moment, who took that extra lap to get those tyres warmed up. Grippy on this surface, and he's kept it clean so far, running wide there though, and the commentator's curse strikes again as he invalidates, then running wide on the hill down to, I'm going to call it TJ Corner because I don't have the best Italian accent, so I'm not going to quite attempt to pronounce the real name of that corner. Skivid now on his hot lap as well. The graphic says a purple first sector. Never go off what the graphic says, it always lies, but it could be fastest, who knows? I'm a liar at this point. If he comes over the line and sets the fastest time, his teammate second at the moment with a 1:16.4. He'll be looking to get close to that if possible. Got a feeling though, it looks like this lap is slow but steady from Skivid. Here it is coming up to the chicane now. Such a hot spot in terms of invalidation, but does keep it clean through there, then on the hill down into the final couple of corners. And David Lawface says this is the most famous corner on the circuit. Not quite sure I'd agree with that one, but it's definitely notable. He does run wide but keeps it from invalidating, and he will come over the line and skip it now with a 1:18.0. And as I said, slow but steady from the AlphaTauri. Then surely we'll see him in for a set of softs if he has time, but there's a yellow flag preventing me from seeing how long is left, unfortunately.
Yeah, so it's been on board Nigel. He was absolutely flying around the track as you're on board with Skivid, was it? Sorry. But he was on absolute flying. Unfortunately, invalidated it, and then invalidated his current lap is on as well.
Yeah, we just caught in the top right there, I think, as you were talking about him. I quickly flicked to him. His time he set was a 1:15.5. It was an invalid 1:15.5. It would have put him 4/10 ahead of Snedden. We would expect Snedden to, of course, have that 8/10-ish advantage on the soft tyres. So perhaps it isn't quite certain that Nigel Piggle is going to be at the front come the end of qualifying in Q3, as we see Mongo abandon his medium tyre run as well. I believe he invalidated also. Then Skivid also is down on his time. So I imagine all these drivers now then that we are looking at, perhaps from Mongo down, they might be looking to do a lap on the softs.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've got nothing to lose unless they really want to start on the mediums. But yeah, I'd be definitely sticking a set of softs on here and just seeing what you can do.
Well, just as you say that, TJ, Skivid appears to have gone round again on his medium tyres. So clearly, he's a driver determined to start on the mediums. I don't understand this fascination with starting on the mediums. For some reason, some drivers in the league just have this massive fascination with wanting to start on the medium tyres, and they're prepared to miss out on Q3 because of that. Each driver to their own, of course, in terms of strategy. I can't really see, especially as I'm expecting many incidents into turn 1 round here, TJ. I don't know what you are expecting, but I think we'll see many incidents on the opening lap here.
Yeah, I think we will. And I'm saying, Michelle, I don't know what the fascination is about starting on the mediums. You know, it's you get the advantage, obviously, that you go a bit longer. And you know, if it's an early safety car, it benefits you. Well, I can't say it benefits if it's an early safety car because it benefits the people on softs really. So I don't know. It's one of them. It's driver preference. Obviously, as you say, it's just a weird one.
Well, Skimmett has managed to get over the line and just push himself into the provisional final 10 for Q3 with an 8th place time of a 1:17.2 then. Just shy of Nigel Piggle's time at the moment, but he is still out there on soft tyres looking to take these over the line then. And it is indeed a 1:15.5 TJ, but 3 laps on those soft tyres now. And he will, of course, have to start on those for the race now.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why he said that. You know, the tire degradation of the softs is really high, and he'll have to make a real early pit stop now. I mean, he'll be praying for an early safety car to extend the life on them, but that's a bit mental, that is. I don't understand the logic about starting on three old softs.
Yep. 3 old softs, of course, with an out lap and an in lap to add to that as well. So he'll be looking at a very early pit stop, as you mentioned. Then David Lowface now then coming down to the final couple of corners. He was about half a second up on his delta. That will be just enough to push Mongo down. He was apparently on an out lap. He looks like he will miss out though, setting a fast lap. David Lowface across the line and goes third fastest then. A 1:16.4.
He'll be absolutely over the moon with that lap.
He will indeed. And the upshot of that is that Mongo is going to miss out on a lap by just 2 seconds then.
Oh no, he's got through. He's set in the lap.
Well, for me, it's red on the screen.
Oh, no, he validates it. Okay, no, he invalidates it, yeah. Oh.
Yeah, so Mongo, pushing to make it over the line, will not get a lap in then. So, we have our final 5 from Q2, and Mongo has now realised that and backed off towards the end of that first sector. So Mongo, Willy Bum, T-Jerk, Fortmanure and El Gord, who we saw crash earlier on in the session, are all out the second part of qualifying. But what a lap there from David Lowface, TJ. It's 1:16.4 to get through there. He'll be mighty impressed with that.
Yeah, definitely. I've given really good confidence going to Q3. And yeah, it's game on. It's you know, with that time, I imagine he's expecting start on the top half of the grid.
Yeah, definitely pushing for that top 5. You would think with a 1:16.4. Look at the lap that Swilzer and Liam Cornforth managed both on the soft tyres as well. 1:16.9, 1:17.0 from Liam Cornforth then. So Locker does make it through. Just about in 9th. Give it 2. That gamble for the medium tyres does pay off, and he does start on his preferred choice of the medium tyres then. But I think Mongo will be especially disappointed with that result there. 11th place. It is tactical pole, of course, in terms of the race. But I think he'll be disappointed. He surely expected to have a little bit more pace than that in the Red Bull.
Yeah, definitely. He would have expected to get to Q3 as you say. But P11 isn't all that bad. You know, it's effectively just outside the top 10, and you get your own tyre choice. If I can get my words out. So yeah, it's going to be interesting what strategy he picks from here. But yeah, he'll be disappointed, but hoping for a really good race now.
Most definitely then. So we can see the top 10 at the end of qualifying 2. Then it is indeed once again Nigel Piggle who is fastest in Q2. 1:15.5 from the Haas driver then. 3/10 ahead of Adrian on the similar compound of tyre then. So perhaps Nigel Piggle really staking a claim here for that pole position. 3/10 ahead, as I mentioned. Snedden in 3rd. David Lowface with that mighty lap in 4th. We have indeed though lost Mongo, Willy Bum, T-Jerk, Force Manure and El Gord, who crashed out from the session though. As we mentioned, Mongo with that tactical pole position from 11th place, and it looks like it might make a difference then if you read between the lines in terms of the compounds used there in Q2. It doesn't look like we're in for a wet start at the very least. I know the weather's unpredictable around here, but it might lend itself to perhaps being a dry race to the relief of the drivers.
Yeah, I'd say so. Normally the key indicators, everyone sticks a set softs on in Q2, then you know it's probably going to be rain, but the fact some people have gone through a medium suggests, yeah, it's going to be a dry race. Which, yeah, is a relief for some of the drivers. Some drivers are probably kicking themselves because they would have expected a bit of rain and perhaps a bit of a better driver in the rain, but we don't know. There could be rain later in the race.
Well, as we looked, I think the pole was skewed towards Snedden by the end of the pole that was very handily put into the chat. It should be said by David Lawface. So most of the viewers backing Snedden in this part of qualifying. TJ, of course, will be start Q3. I'm going to come to you for a time, not a time. I could say a time. If you want to guess the time, that'd be really impressive. But we're going to go for a driver then. Give me your top 3. You don't have to give me them in order, but you can do if you want to. But your top 3 for the session then.
I think we're gonna have Snedden, Adrian, and Nigel Piggle. In that order.
Snedden, Piggle, and Adrian. You heard it here first, guys. Put it on at your local bookies. Can't imagine they'll give you great odds because I think they've been pretty much the fastest so tonight. But you never know. You never know. Try it out. Sky Bet, request a bet. You never know. They might pay out. Who knows?
I mean,
as it looks like then. Oh, carry on.
So I was going to, I think there's an outside chance of Magsy as well. I know we haven't mentioned him much here, but he's been up there in the past 2 races, and he'll be hoping for a podium position, I imagine.
Well, I was going to mention him actually. He's the first driver to take us on a flying lap in this session of qualifying then. So Magsy will perhaps look to breach that stronghold of the top 3 then, looking then to get onto the front row. I don't think he's been on the front row this season. I'm not very good with my facts. I should probably fact check a little bit before coming into these races.
Let's just have a quick check on that.
We'll get TJ the stat man. TJ's the stat man in all things tier 3.
He started on the front row in Bahrain.
Yeah, see, I knew I was wrong. Second place. Second place in Bahrain, wasn't he? I knew I'd seen that somewhere.
Yeah.
Here he is now, coming towards the end of his first flying run then in Q3, closely followed by the Alfa Romeo of Snedden, but it will be himself to cross the line first, and now keeping a tight run to the pit wall, crosses the line at 1:15.8. then not a bad time from him, perhaps something to give the top 3 to think about, but Snedden comes over the line at 1:14.9. Well,
that's special, that is. I mean, that's going to take a lot of beating. I'm going to say that now.
Most definitely. Skibby looks like his time's not going to be representative. 1:22.4 isn't indeed. Adrian crosses the line at 1:15.5. Not bad from the AlphaTauri there either. As we look to have Locker then come over the line. Do it for Laura. It's a 1:16.9. Puts in 4th place as O'Hagan just knocks him down with a 1:16.4 then in the Aston Martin. We've got the Ferrari of David Lawface, who invalidated his run, as did Liam Cornforth, who will look to go again on the same set of tyres there. But what a lap from Snedden there, TJ. 1:14.9. That's going to take some beating.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's tier 2 pace, that is. I think he was asked to go to tier 2, but he can't race on Fridays. I might have read that wrong, but yeah, he's just showing off there, definitely.
Well, as I mentioned, it's probably the last weekend really you could probably move drivers without much of an argument really in terms of the standings anyway. Snedden putting in a 1:14.9 surely puts him right up there in terms of tier 2 pace there. And let's ride with David Lawface as he's coming to the end of his second flying lap, it should be said, in qualifying. Then keeps it a little bit cleaner this time, avoiding invalidation. Let's see if he's managed to keep those tyres grippy on his second flying lap, and he does cross the line and go 5th fastest at a 1:16.5 to split Ojeda and Locker, but Liam Cornforth might look to get in that fight, and indeed beats Ojeda to go fourth fastest, and a good lap from the McLaren driver there. But both Haas drivers yet to set a lap, and one of them one of the favourites for pole.
Yeah, I've just been on board with him, Nigel, and unfortunately he invalidated turn 1, the fraud. Yes. So yeah, he's racing round this lap as if he's not invalidated it, so I'm assuming he's going to push straight away again, but I would have backed off and saved the tyres a little bit here.
Yeah, perhaps using it as a little bit of practice towards the end of this first run. He does indeed, as you said, continue on to another flying lap. 45% ERS, it should just be enough over the line. He might be waning a little bit in terms of engine power, but he does look to continue on then, yet to set a valid lap. But can he get anywhere near that time from Snedden? You'd think not. That lap mighty impressive. The Alfa Romeo. I don't see anyone toppling that time before the end of this session.
No, I don't. I mean, you know, we've seen Nigel set all his Q1 and Q2 times on softs, and he was about the 1:15.5 mark on both sessions. But unless he's been sandbagging or keeping up something to sleeve, I can't see, as you mentioned, Alan beating that time now.
Nigel Pig on his second flying lap seems to have just started weaving for some reason. Perhaps he knew he was down on his delta and he's given up all hope of setting a faster time. I think, as you mentioned there, TJ, with Snedden's time, we saw him through, Q1, Q2. He wasn't blistering in terms of his lap times. I know in Q2 he didn't seem too far off the pace, but that lap is really impressive, and I can't see that being beaten either. So your prediction of a top 3 is still very much on here, I would imagine, with Snedden first. Can Nigel Piggle get the lap together? He's probably the main competitor at the moment, you'd have to say, especially of those drivers that haven't set a time, are yet to see what he can do with hooking up a lap. Skivvy's had enough. Skivvy's saving his tyres in the pits there. And he will start no higher than 8th, depending on what Spilzer and Nigel Piggle muster up before the end of this session. And just as I say that, Spilzer comes over the line with a 1:16.4 then. Out of nowhere, the lonely Haas on circuit, although Hayder, it should be said, has just started a flying lap as well, choosing to go early then, it would be seen. A bit wide there through the first chicane, unfortunately. I don't know if it's affected his lap time. We're shortly about to find out as he comes to the end of Sector 1. He is 2/10 up at the moment, but there does seem to be a little bit of gap, doesn't there, TJ, between the times? If you look at the top 4, I know Snedden up the equation, I should say. There's a bit of a gap back to Ojeda, isn't there, of about half a second.
Yeah, there is. I think it's just purely how confident you are on this track. You know that there's so many places where you can validate it, or you drop it and spin it. It's just a case of how confident you are and how much you're willing to throw the car into the corner as such.
Yep, definitely, as Ojeda has invalidated this flying run, then Swilzer, of course, not looking to improve on that run either. Nigel Piggle then looking to go early, perhaps looking for 2 runs then at getting himself further up the grid. He definitely won't want to start 10th. He's sandwiched between all the drivers on the grid. He's just asking for trouble down into turn 1 there. Interesting, you touched on, TJ, in terms of the confidence that drivers have around here. Do you think it's different to the confidence that you have around Jeddah? I mean, I'm looking at the drivers that are here in this session now. For example, David Loweface has found some pace, got himself through to Q3, he's in 7th place at the moment. Do you think it's a different kind of confidence than what we saw last weekend?
Yeah, definitely. With Jeddah, there's obviously it's a lot of straights, as everyone knows. But I think mainly with Jeddah, it's Sector 1, the track limit. And if you can get through that, and you pretty much got your lap booked up for the rest of the sectors. Whereas with Imola, okay, you've obviously got the massive straights on the start finish line, but then you've got these technical chicanes and where you can validate it from. You've got the double right-hander, which is hard to battle. You've got the last chicane, which you've got to sort of hit the curb and help rotate the car around. So yeah, I do believe it's different confidence, and it's just a case of who's late on the brakes and who's clever at rolling the car into the corner.
Yes, as you said, rolling the car into the corner, the balance of the car so important around here compared to Jeddah. And it is completely different in terms of the characteristics of the circuit. Nigel Piggle, though, out of sync, it should be said, with the rest of the drivers at the moment. As you can see, 6 of them on and out lap 7. It should be said now, the swirls are coming onto the circuit as well. So the drivers need to make sure they're not getting in the way of the Haas here. He has got a bit of clear track ahead of him before he reaches the AlphaTauri, it should be said, of Adrian then, who looks like he's about to start his final flying lap as well. Nigel Piggle keeping it clean so far from invalidation. I don't know if it's looked fast to you, TJ, but it looks like it could be up there in terms of time. Coming around the final couple of corners now, keeping it clean.
I'm not sure whether it's going to be the 14s, but it definitely might be a low 15.
Runs out of ERS over the line. It's only enough for third then, a 15-6.
He'll be disappointed with that, I think.
He will be indeed, as Liam Cornforth looks like he's made a mistake as well after the first chicane, and he's dropped it on the middle of the straights. Magsy hopefully won't be impeded by this. He's on a hard lap. Nigel Piggle got out of the way. Magsy has been impeded by it and dropped it himself.
Oh no! Nigel's dropped it as well.
Nigel dropped it now. Locker looks like he might be in trouble. Liam Cornforth's just sat there at the moment. Magsy's now been disqualified for some reason for going the wrong way. So I don't know if that's going to affect his final time. Locker is still slightly up on his time, but I think he would have hoped to have been a little bit higher up. Magsy has indeed been disqualified from the session, as I mentioned. I did think it was going to compromise his final qualifying position. He's down to 10th now with that disqualification from the session. Facing the wrong way on the circuit. No idea there what happened. Liam Cornforth somehow retired in the middle of the circuit. Magsy, of course, perhaps not predicting it as much as Locker was able to, and found himself in the wall as well, and now, of course, disqualified from the session. We've rode on board with Locker for the majority of this lap, and only a few drivers still on a flying lap. It is Snedden at the moment on provisional pole. Can Locker do anything to get further up the grid for the start of the race and across the line now? And it is 5th fastest for the McLaren then at the moment, provisionally just behind his teammate on row 3. But can Swilzer or David Lawface do anything about that? Swilzer wide off the final corner. Will that affect his lap time? Comes over the line, improves slightly to 6th place. All eyes on David Lawface, half a second up on the Delta, but invalidates. Oh no.
He'll be disappointed but happy, I reckon, with that. You know, he's shown still got pace in the car. But what a mental end to that qualifying session.
Absolutely. Absolutely. David Lawface there would have had a time easily enough to pip Locker to that 5th place, but he invalidated on my least favourite corner of the circuit, the final corner, and he will start 8th for the race then. So it is indeed a top 3 then of Snedden, Adrian and Piggle. You predicted it correctly, the top 3, just not quite in the correct order. That's lap from Snedden, half a second ahead of the rest of the field. Then Liam Cornforth and Locker 4th and 5th on the grid then. Swilzer in 6th, Ojeda 7th. David Lawface, as you said, with enough of a time there to get further up the grid, but unfortunately invalidating Skivid in 9th. He retired early from the session voluntarily, and Magsy disqualified there in crazy circumstances.
Yeah, I've just been reading the Twitch chat, and he says that all he was trying to do was turn round, and Michael Massey decided to disqualify him.
Yep, hopefully no one decides to hit the button early. It's a very, very simple rule. We remind you about it each week that you race, so hopefully no one readies up before the lobby host force manure. Fingers crossed at the moment. Let's go to the Twitch chat then, as you mentioned. I don't think we've come since Q1.
No, so Piggle fraud.
Nigel Piggle says...
Oh, go on.
Yeah. I was going to say, Nigel Piggle saying commentators curse there for his final run. We are both frauds. Yeah, well, don't bottle it next time, Nigel Pickle, and you might start on pole, unfortunately for you. He did also mention it's a Wednesday night, and not everyone is an alcoholic. I disagree with that. Everyone's got an alcoholic inside them somewhere. Someone has readied up before force majeure. We would love to
Things
see
you
who
love
that
to
is
see.
if we can find out.
I mean,
Get someone.
it's not like I warned all drivers earlier in the day about this again. So it's yeah. Read the rule book, guys. Read the rule book.
Read the rulebook indeed, read the rulebook. Let's hope we can catch that person out and give them a nice swift quali ban for next week at Portimao. George Annie says, hi, I'm Awesome Car. Hopefully I can race tomorrow. Well, hopefully you can race tomorrow. Awesome Car, as you seem to be very willing to race. Adrian says, star, is that lap by Snedden? if they've starred WTF there, I'm a bit concerned as to how censored we are getting these days online. Then just a lot of waffle from Nigel Piggle. Adam J, who is collateral ads, says dive. Dive.
Dive.
Dive.
I'll dive.
Oh, dive. Maxi says he was just trying to turn around. Henkers says Alfa Romeo dominance, you love to see it. Adrian says, is it safe to go and take a piss? Nope. Because you can see, as Adam J says, Magsy dirty bastard. I don't think it was Magsy that readied up. I'd like to think not. I expect better from Magsy. We'll be interested to see if we can find out who that was. If anyone has a point of view and knows who that was, we need to stop this. I think there's been a ready up early in every single tier 3 race so far this season. So, yeah, if we can find out who that was, name and shame them in the chat. I'll do a quick rundown of the starting grid list of TS9, 18th after failing to get a lap in Q1. Mr. Whippy, 17th in Red Bull. I'm Not Good, 16th for Ferrari today as the reserve driver. El Gord, 15th after crashing out in Q2, force majeure. And T-Jerk, the Alpines, alongside each other on the grid, 13th and 14th. Mongo and Willy Bum, 11th and 12th. Magsy, who we saw disqualified from Q3 in very strange circumstances, it should be said, will start 10th. Skivid in 9th. David Lawface 8th for Ferrari, unfortunately invalidating on his last fast lap. Ojeda in 7th. Swilzer in 6th. The McLarens, perhaps the best bunch from qualifying, 4th and 5th. We saw Liam Cornforth crash out, but it didn't put Locker off on his fast lap. I know Laura will be cheering him on from the stream. In 5th place, perhaps a podium on the horizon for him. Nigel Piggle, the biggest bottle job in Tier 3 in 3rd place. Adrian, 2nd for AlphaTauri, and the mighty Snedden, who put that absolutely unbelievable lap in Q3 to go half a second quicker than the rest of the field, will start on pole, and TJ will take them away off the start.
Yep, so we've got the 5 lights, and away they go. I mean, this is the worst camera angle ever. Cheers, Co-Masters, but looks like we got away cleanly. Adrian's had a bit of a nightmare start. Piggle's got Q2. This will be interesting to get on into the... Oh! I'm not quite sure what happened there, but force majeure is out. I'm surprised the safety cars have been called. At the top of the rest of the grid, like they got through turns 1, 2, 3, and 4 cleanly. But it'll be interesting to see how happens to force majeure there. I mean, from my camera angle, it just looked like he got turned into.
Well, we saw it there at the back of the picture on the stream. We saw the carnage unfold. I did try to quickly cycle back through the drivers, but unfortunately didn't quite catch what happened to force majeure there. Our lobby host on the start. What bad luck he's having this season, unfortunately for him. Out off the start then this week. As I mentioned, bad luck for him. He had a flags out at the moment. Willy Bum and Mongo both without a front wing then. So have they been involved? David Lowface as well in the mud now as well for Ferrari. Dropped it at TJ. It looks like on the opening lap then. Snedden keeps his start. Nigel Piggle looks like he's got the jump on Adrian then. And what's happened to Locker down in 14th place?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He dropped down the grid early in the lap, and I think it was when we were talking about the carnage of the pit straight, to be honest. So I'm assuming he had a bit of a wobble and it just knocked him back. 'Cause he hasn't got any front wing damage, so he'll be able to keep his head down now on them mediums and just get back through the grid. But yeah, I mean, what we got 5-6 drivers in the pits currently. That was absolute carnage unfolded on the straight.
6 drivers in the pits, 1 driver out of the race already, 17 remain. As you mentioned, yeah, those drivers in the pits now cut adrift, of course, from the points paying positions at the back of the pack. Locker looks like he's managed to get away without getting any damage off the start of the race then, but they'll surely be begging for a safety car. Now then, as Adrian from 3rd place then, we were just riding on board with him out of TJ corner, has stuck it in the wall. No front wing. He's waiting for everyone to come past. I mean, yeah, I'd want him to get out there quickly before he gets disqualified. He has managed to keep it going, but he will need to pit for a new front wing then from 3rd place.
Yeah, we called it during qualifying that a lot of drivers will find it difficult for that particular corner. All it takes is a little unbalance the car, a little bit too early on the throttle. V has been a little bit hot, and yeah, it's a real pain point for drivers at that particular TJ's corner is.
TJ's corner, somehow it's become your corner. I think we're going to have to find a way to get Crofty to mention it's TJ's corner from now on. After that infamous social race around here, of course, pre-season. But at the moment, we have got Locker on 3 seconds worth of penalties, Cornforth as well. 3 seconds worth of penalties of both McLarens, struggling to keep it within the track limits at the moment. 3 drivers have made up 10 positions off the start. Both Mercedes up 10. El Gordon TS9 up to 5th and 8th then. And also I'm Not Good in the Ferrari then. Both reserve drivers getting a brilliant start to this race. Adrian is in the pits and making a change of tyres. It's a good point to switch from the position change and look at the tyres that the drivers are on at the moment. Then another 3-second penalty already. Tier 3 last week, I think, were unbelievable on the track limits around Jeddah, but 3 drivers falling foul of them so far. And you can see there pretty much a 50-50 split in terms of the soft and medium tyres at the moment. Of course, a lot of drivers into the pits, but Mongo on the hards then. I would have thought he would have tried to avoid those hard tyres for as long as possible. But of course, that early pit stop looking to go long on them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you personally, but I don't. Oh, TJ's out. He's dropped it at TJ's corner. I'm just trying.
Has indeed, and it is a safety car.
I mean, now that now Mongo will probably be kicking himself here, because I imagine most people then try to jump in the pits, maybe. So it's, you know, perhaps for a fresh settlement if they've been involved in a spin or something. As I was trying to say, I'm not sure about you, but the hard tyres, I'm not a massive fan of personally.
Absolutely not a massive fan of the hard tyres around here, or at any track, it should be said. The safety car does indeed come out to the relief of those drivers who have taken a pit stop early on. Let's have a look to see who those were. Swilzer Ojeda has made 2 stops now, as you mentioned, looking to make another stop to get rid of the tyres. He had to change to Lowface and Adrian, Willybump and Mongo all in the pits then. So both T-Jerk and Force Manure out then. Alpine in the mud, it would seem, at the moment. As we had an early ready up of the session, TJ, I have unfortunately not had a chance to go and relieve myself in the toilet. I am going to go and do that now, but before I do that, Snedden and Nigel Piggle in the pits then.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. The soft tyres do degrade pretty quickly. Snedden puts a set of softs on, Nigel's opted for the medium, so opposite strategies. Bit of a risky move from Snedden, that is. I would have thought he puts a set of mediums on, but getting them to the end as well is a bit of a challenge at this point.
Yeah, split strategies indeed. I think the mediums will struggle to get to the end as well. Obviously dependent on the amount of safety cars we receive towards the end of this race, but definitely stay tuned in for the... I should say there's still 3/4 of this race to go, believe it or not. And there will be by the time the safety car comes in as well. I'm going to leave you in the capable, comfortable, caring arms of Tijum as I go and toilet before the restart of the race. I'll be back shortly.
So yeah, so I imagine the safety car is going to be out for at least another lap here. I mean, the field's still very spaced out. So yeah, they're going to have to catch up with the pack first, and yeah, I imagine we're going to have another lap on behind the safety car, as I just mentioned. Just had a quick look through the Twitch chat and noticed that Laura's mentioned that someone made contact with Locker, which is why he dropped down the grid, which is really unfortunate. Adam J says Force Muse slipped on it. I'm not going to repeat that, but Force Muse slipped and that's why he crashed. And Piggle Fraud asking, how did you get track limits with another safety car? I mean, the answer to that, Piggle Fraud, is to keep it on the track and not go past the limits. So yeah, as I mentioned, we're still waiting for the pack to bunch up here. I imagine that the safety car will come in this lap, assuming these drivers can catch up quick enough, which they should do. I'm glad you agree about logic there, Piggle Fraud. I mean, it says it in the limit itself that track limits are reached. So, cheers, Adam J. Yeah, we are a PG show until after 9:30. So, post that comes after 9:30, and I'll repeat it for you. So the drivers are split a little bit. Actually, majority of them are sticking with the mediums. We have got a couple of drivers on the soft tyres. Then we've got the 3 gents at the back that are on the hards. I mean, it's still a really mixed up grid at this point. Strategy is going to be key here, obviously. I reckon Snedden's hoping for another safety car for definite. I imagine it's going to be late to call for a safety car here as well. Pop up there, we go, safety cars in this lap. So Liam Corforth will now begin to back the pack up, create a bit of space between him and the safety car. Hopefully it doesn't go too early, as we have got the auto slowdown in the game. So please give the safety car time to get in before we go. As he's still holding back, and I hope he doesn't go. Just check the safety car is in. Don't go, please don't go. As he's chosen to go, and they're off.
I'm pretty certain that's a song, that is. Please don't go. Please don't go. Something like that. I think I've heard that one before. As you mentioned, him come forth timing it very well to get going with the safety car. Thank you for that one, TJ, filling in there while I emptied my bladder into the toilet. It was very nice indeed. Much relief.
It's nice to see the drivers have got round sector 1 really clean at the moment.
Indeed, of course, the top 6 yet to stop. Of course, Snedden and Nigel Pickle. Now, what's key for their race is how quickly they dispatch of those drivers ahead of them.
Yeah, definitely. They need to get through the pack as quick as they can and get themselves some fresh air, get themselves some cool air. But it's all to play for still, definitely. The drivers are definitely hoping for another safety car. As I'm not good now, he's dropped it TJ's corner as well.
TJ's corner claims its 4th or 5th victim. I've lost track at this point. Virtual safety car for the drivers, no full safety car then, as they get away with a full safety car, because I think that a full safety car might have ruined a couple of the guys' strategies. But it is just a virtual safety car. I'm not good. We'll be disappointed to go out there though, TJ.
Yeah, definitely. But it's as we said in qualifying, you know, that particular double right-hander, it's so sensitive, you know, that your wheels might be a little bit warm, you might just twitch off the track a little bit, you might get a bit of throttle happen, put it on too early. I know a lot of drivers do struggle with it.
I do indeed. As, yeah, we need to kind of see now one of these top 6 are going to come into the pits. It should be said Snedden's now got ahead of TS9, and of course I'm Not Good, who crashed out, so another driver he doesn't have to worry about getting past. He has got Skivered ahead of him, but of course under virtual safety car conditions all the drivers drive to the deltas. I'm pretty certain everyone watching and racing knows how to manage that one. I can't say the same for myself, as I've been foul of the delta a couple of times, but we don't speak about that anymore, as Skivered appears to have dropped it under virtual safety car.
Liam Cornforth's got a drive penalty. He was over the delta.
Just as I mentioned about the delta, Liam Cornforth gets himself a drive-through penalty, and Skivered then from 4th place drops it somehow at TJ Corner and is now down in 14th. Disappointing there for the brother of the man who gives us a wave every week on the Twitch stream. He's not here tonight, unfortunately, though. Our lovely Fish Sticks Lee Carey give us a wave. Not here to support his brother, it would not seem. Liam Cornforth still in the lead, but you'll see now a drive-through penalty for the McLaren driver then, so he will have to serve that within the next 3 laps, giving Magsy then the technical race lead at the moment. Of course, yet to pit at the moment then. So TJ, who has got this right at the moment? I know the front 3 have yet to stop, but they've only got 5 extra lap old mediums compared to Snedden's now 3 lap old soft tyres. I know he's had a couple of laps under virtual safety car, and I know there's been a lap under safety car as well, but do you think now that kind of left it a little bit late, or do you think he's made the right call to go onto the softs in terms of later on in this race?
I'm not quite sure he's got it right still. He's obviously got the pace advantage now, but when these guys do decide to pit, and I imagine will come into soft, the advantage they're going to have over his mediums, as Liam Cornforth does come into service drive-through. But yeah, the advantage the guys like Magsy and Alan Gould essentially are very, very snagging towards the end of the race. I think he's got the wrong call potentially.
Oh, we've just seen him get very close to Al Gould, almost giving a love tap on the way into turn 1 there, but does indeed get past the Mercedes driver. It should be mentioned, of course, with a virtual safety car, you do not have to wait the mandatory 2 laps to get the DRS, so using that to his advantage up to 2nd place, but I don't think Al Gould will be completely impressed with that overtake there from the Alfa Romeo driver. One driver who does seem to be struggling at the moment, Nigel Piggle, currently in 4th place for the Haas. As
Liam Cornforth dropped it.
Liam Cornforth, as you said, indeed has dropped it. I think he's dropped it exactly the same place where he dropped it in qualifying.
Yeah, he has. So obviously getting a bit trigger happy coming up to turn 3. A shame really. Though he has got a lot of pace, Liam Cornforth has, but it just seems like every race so far he's been unfortunate.
Yep. Unfortunate again, unlucky some would say, but I think it's misfortune. You make your own luck in this game. Liam Cornforth dropping it then after serving a drive through under the virtual safety car, unfortunately, and this just in, an exclusive under the virtual safety car. Liam Cornforth has left Fair Play Racing League, unfortunately. Following that incident, Liam, no, we were just saying it was so unfortunate to see you crash out. But of course, how much misfortune can you take, really? Liam Cornforth out of the race, and it should be said provisionally out of FPRL then after his decision. There, DRS re-enabled after virtual safety car, of course. Will that play into anyone's hands as to where the virtual safety car was called in? Snedden all over the back of Magsy now, out in front. Magsy, of course, carrying that penalty. We should look quickly at the penalties. So Magsy with a 3-second, TS9 6 seconds at the moment. Swilzer, Locker, Adrian O'Hader now, and Willie Bum all with 3 seconds as well. As there's not too much going on the circuit at the moment. Looking to the Twitch chat as David Lawface gets a 3-second penalty as well. It should be said, Swords all over the back of TS9 here. Silverside Boy says he's left the league at Bill. Thank you so much for that. Twin says Liam just left. Yep, thanks Twins for that one. And Lateral says yes, mate. So thank you for that. As Swords are then looking with the DRS to get ahead of TS9, and does indeed, and will follow his Haas teammate up the road then, hopefully towards the podium places with El Gord at the moment. And Seddon, it should be said though, currently still behind Maxi, but Maxi looks like he's got it out of shape through the chicane there at the end of sector 1, and Seddon's ahead.
Yeah, I've just been on board with that. I've been watching the back of the grid, and Adrian has just dropped it where Snedden did as well. So he's another driver that's struggling. As he goes back around again, and his rears are boiling. Oh, and that was a reset to track. Jesus Christ, lads.
Well, we don't want to bring religion into this, TJ, but I can agree with that expression there, of course. Unbelievable there from Adrian with the reset to track. We've had a ready up early and a reset to track already. Oh, read the rulebook, guys. Read the rulebook. That's a 5 second. Oh no, is it 10 seconds? 10 seconds, isn't it? I've got it wrong. 10 seconds.
It's a 10 seconds, yeah.
10. We've got the head steward with us. We may as well comment on that now. 10 seconds. A 10-second penalty and a 10 penalty points coming your way. Adrian, read the rulebook. And whoever readied up earlier, of course, a quali ban coming your way if we caught you. Hopefully we did, to avoid it in the future. El Gord now all over the back of Maxi on comparative tyres, and it looks like El Gord has found some pace somewhere. Maxi not quite as confident, it would seem, on his tyres at the moment. TJ has just done something, tried on a plug or something, I don't know.
I'm just on board with David Lawface, and he did a really nice move on that O'Hader in turn 1 and 2. But as he went to turn 3, I'm not sure if O'Hader hit David Lawface, but he went straight, he just went straight and hit the wall, and dropped himself down to P12 with no front wing.
Oh, O'Hader, what do you like, lad? Down in 12th now, he had the pace early on. But it gives him a chance to come in. He can get rid of those hard tyres. Fingers crossed he gets another safety car for his race anyway. But as you said, 12th place at the moment for him. Then looking quickly in the Twitch chat, we've got Lola Lulu, whatever her name is. Laura, we know her as Laura. I'm just going to call her Laura from now on. We're not going to go off the Twitch name. As Maxi Pitson from 2nd place, it should be safe for Williams. I imagine TJ's going to have to go onto hard tyres if he's looking to do the one stop.
Yeah, definitely. He's got no choice. I mean, you could put a set of mediums on. I mean, you'd be pushing him, and if you like, that's a nice towards the end of the race. But yeah, it's a hard one.
Well, it's red. It's red, TJ. It's softs for Magsy. Then clearly, with 19 laps to go, he will have to come in again and get rid of that set of soft boots. I love that expression, the dance on ice expression. It makes my week when you come out with that on a Wednesday night. The old dance on ice.
I've got to drop it in at some point.
You've got to drop it. It's almost your catchphrase at this point, to be fair. As Al Gore gets a 3-second penalty down to join the running theme of the field in corner cutting penalties. I imagine this is going to be a theme all week, it should be said. Nothing against the tier 3 drivers there, though. Snedden running away with things at the moment then. 4.3 seconds clear of El Gord in 2nd place, who, as we mentioned, just got that penalty. Nigel Piggle, though, just behind him as El Gord pits then, perhaps to cover off Maxi at this point.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's happened to Locke. I was just behind him on different cars, but he's just dropped it on 2nd last corner.
No, Locker! He's coming in the pits. Has he got front wing damage somehow? With only 8 lap old medium tyres on. Let's watch him into the box. No, he's okay. He's just going to put the hards on to run till the end, it would seem.
I mean, fair play. I think he's already had tops on. Maybe hasn't got a set of mediums to go back on it, but yeah, he's going to struggle in parts, I think.
Well, we're now getting a very spread out pack, which is not what we want to see in terms of action. As I mentioned, I did previously commentate a FPRL race around this track. It was wet, but there wasn't a lot of action. So we was hoping for more tonight, but of course with this spread out field, a little bit less chance for that as strategies come into play for the second half of this race. But we have been treated, it should be said, to a good race so far. And if the second half is anything like the first, hopefully, fingers crossed, we've got another 16, 17 laps of fantastic race. And then, as I mentioned, it is Snedden now 5 seconds out in front from Nigel Piggle, as Ojeda, as you can see at the bottom of your screen, retires in the pit lane, looking to not continue any further. Then Swills an extra 5 seconds back from Nigel Piggle at the minute. Haas both on the podium.
I don't know about you, but my game has suddenly gone really dark, as if it's about to rain.
I was just going to mention actually, because I remember as Ojeda's car comes back out onto track to retire on circuit for some reason. He did retire in the pits though, so that won't of course go against him. It was mentioned earlier, I think by TS9 in the Twitch chat, there's an 18% chance of rain.
I mean, it sounds like it's a heavy cloud, which is disadvantaging these guys on the hard tyres now. Because obviously they're not getting the temperature they need, and they're relying on the track temperature now to warm us up. But it does look like it's going to turn potentially.
Well, fingers crossed at this point. Of course, the gaps, as I mentioned, the closest battle on track at the moment between Willybum and Mongo at the moment for 4th and 5th. Of course, is a bit of intrigue to see how the likes of Magsy and El Gore do on this strategy now. But with only 13 drivers left, of course, less chance of a safety car to bring those other drivers back into play. The likes of David Lowface and Skirrid, and especially Locker, it should be said, will be hoping for a safety car at this point. We are still watching this fight between Willybum and Mongo. Willybum there, unfortunately, not able to get past the Red Bull for him anyway. Of course, I want to keep that Red Bull ahead of Willybum, it should be said, as he gets a 3-second penalty. I've commentated curse my own team there, as I did notice on the track that David Lowface dropped a TJ corner again. I think he's trying to fix us a nice little safety car here, TJ. I think he wants to get the entertainment of the stream up slightly. Just drive into a wall, dear David. It's alright, we won't give you anything on the on the stewarding side of things. Just stick it in a wall, get us a safety car, bring things close, and we'll get some racing back on our hands. Quickly in the Twitch chat, I was going to say Laura Lulu. I touched upon it earlier as I was saying her name, Laura, as we call her, Laura Locker, as TJ calls her anyway. Says, Locker's got this for McLaren, don't worry.
So,
that
comment says, well, what you should do in Mrs. Locker is flip him on the back of the ear. At the time he's got to do better.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think we're now going to start the Laura curse. Yes, Locker gets a 3-second time penalty. We're going to have to get Laura in the Twitch each day now to curse a driver.
I mean,
Ojeda in the Twitch chat says, Lowface, learn how to race for once. There's a lot of stars in that message. Absolutely no idea what those words could be. Laura's back in the Twitch chat again, giving us some entertainment, even if the racing is not absolutely ecstatic at the moment. How do you keep a straight face when you commentate about Mongo and Willybum? Well... well, we're just kind of used to it now. We are kind of used to it. It was. I think we laughed about it at Bahrain, and then it's just kind of.
we are professionals here, Laura. Come on.
We are very professional indeed. We are after David Croft and Martin Brundle's job, of course, on a Wednesday night. Nothing but professionalism, as I always say every Wednesday. The common pairing of me and TJM. God. Bringing absolute joy to people's faces in FPRL. Snedden, it should be said, coming to the pits. Speaking about professionalism, Snedden into the pits then from the lead onto medium tyres. Now then, he comes out behind Willy Bum. Not gonna laugh. In 4th place. I'm gonna laugh. Sandwich between the two Williams of Willy Bum and Magsy then. Now on the fresh set of mediums, and surely Nigel Pickle can't take those mediums till the end. 13 laps on them at the moment. Mongo and Willy Bum 16 and 14 laps on the hard tyres respectively, so I imagine Snedden won't struggle too much to get past there. But what is crucial to look for now is how quickly Snedden can minimise the gaps between him and Nigel Pickle, who perhaps going for an overcut at this point.
Yeah, definitely. There's potentially a couple of strategies here at play that Nigel tries to take Carlson here for Vain doesn't matter, that might be coming, which obviously works into his advantage. He'll just take a set of intermediates on if required and go around that way. But if Vain doesn't come, and as you mentioned, I think getting onto them now is going to be hard. He's got to come back in at some point, and he hasn't got. Has he got the gap? He has got the. No, he hasn't got the gap that he requires to come in and go back off the Harris now.
No, it's such a long pit lane here with times a little bit more than they would be on a traditional pit lane, it should be said, in terms of the speed limit. It's 50 mile an hour, a long way of the pit lane then, so yeah, unfortunately it doesn't look like you'll have the jump on Snedden, but it depends how quickly Snedden gets past Willy Bum and Mongo here, because they are holding him up.
Yeah, that's a good point for me. You imagine when you get to the RS, he'll just fly past Willy Bum for definite, and maybe he'll get double overtake, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. Tyres are in good, I'd say they're in good condition. They're probably in better condition than, say, Nigel Piggles. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be interesting for at least a couple of laps, which will give us some entertainment.
It will. I imagine an overtake under DRS will be no problem here for Snedden. It should be said that Maxie's now joined the back of this fight as well on his new soft tyres. Well, 6-fold soft tyres now, it should be said. So, as I mentioned, he'll probably have to come in and get rid of those, unless he is, TJ, as we mentioned, anticipating the rain. Snedden's still not past Willy Bum down into turn 1, and he can't get past him into the chicane here either then, so he will remain behind him for at least another half a lap, you'd think, here with no overtaking points.
Yeah, and all this is... Oh, and we've got Is it El Gorge? El Gorge's a bit wide, but yeah, this is just playing into Nigel's hand here. The gap has gone up at least a second in the last lap. As he gets moved on Willy Bum, is this going to be... Oh! I think that was a bit ambitious from Snedden there, and I think he might have caused Willy Bum to spin.
TJ, I'll say this now, as I know, obviously, you're the head steward. I got an absolutely brilliant view of that on stream. It was a complete bird's eye view of the overtake there of Snedden on Willy Bum. It seemed like, as you mentioned, yeah, he went a little bit round the outside and clipped the front of the Williams driver, which obviously sent him into a spin. I'm not entirely convinced he will not test that one, Willy Bum. I think he might put in a clip against that, which of course might affect the post-race results. It was a little bit of a dirty move there from the Alfa Romeo driver.
Yeah, which is a shame, So I obviously hasn't meant it. I do believe Snedden is a nice, clean driver. But yeah, I think the movie attempted there maybe got a bit. He wasn't patient enough, and perhaps he knew that he was losing time and just wanted to get the move done. But definitely don't do it against them double right-handers.
Indeedy, and we might see a clip coming against Snedden at the end of this race, as I mentioned, but he does continue to charge towards Nigel Pickle. Then the gap down to 17.5 seconds now, already getting that gap down by about a second and a half. Mongo we saw in the pits, as Nigel Pickle now then comes into the pits as well then.
Yes, this could be really crucial. He's hoping for a really quick stop here, and March is putting the softs on, so it's just a case of what pace has now starting these softs, and can he keep the pace up to try and claw this gap that he's going to have between him Snedden and Magdy.
Max in the pits, it should be said as well, so we knew he had to get rid of those soft tyres before the end of the race, choosing to do that now then, so surely it might just be from now on a straight fight between Nigel Piggle and Snedden, first and second, and he comes out 7.5 seconds behind the Alfa Romeo driver then, so can he, with around 9.5 laps left to go now before the end of this race, get that gap down? He's probably over a second a lap in terms of advantage, but he'll be pushing him all the way, I imagine, till the end of this race.
Yeah, definitely. As you mentioned, I reckon you can get easily a second lap on Snedden. So it's definitely going to come down to the final laps, and it'll be a case of how much does Snedden, how much lap is Snedden taking onto his tyres, which I can imagine isn't much, but how much is Nigel going to take onto his tyres, trying to push get Snedden.
Oh, as Elgord has dropped it then, out of TJ corner. Round again on the soft tyres, lights with the rears again as well. Got to be careful just getting in the way here of TS9. And now Mongo's coming through as well. Got Maxi coming through. He's got to sit and wait. Perhaps for this Williams to come through as well. He reverses, but just about keeps it in line with not getting in the way there of William, who was on the way through. So Elgord then from third place down now to 9th. For Mercedes, you think he would have to pit anyway on those softs, but that's just completely ruined his race. The corner has caught another victim, it would seem then. Bongo with the new fastest lap now on those new soft tyres.
Yeah, I've just been talking about how good I've been watching Nigel and Snedden in the gap. Within one lap, it's come on by 2 seconds. So Nigel's got a massive tyre advantage here. And he isn't being scared about trying to push and get what he needs.
I don't know about you, TJ, but if Wednesday nights are like this for the rest of the season, I think we'll have absolutely brilliant entertainment before the end of this season. Of course, 17 rounds to go after this one. Nigel Piggle and Snedden going up against each other, it would seem, at the moment. How quickly will the Haas drivers' tyres burn out here? The gap, as you mentioned, below 5 seconds now. The advantage is just so vast on the soft tyres, it would seem. Absolutely flying at the moment. He has no ERS, though, it should be said. He has 0 as he crosses the line. So he spent a lot of that catching up the Alfa Romeo, but the gap now 4.3. He's absolutely flying on the soft tyres at this point of the race.
Yeah,
8 laps to go now.
He seems to be getting his majority of time in Sector 3. I think through Sectors 1 and 2 are sort of matched each other. But the traction and the pace now just got through Sector 3 is unbelievable.
We've got a fight down into turn 1 here, or Willy Bum looks like he's got the move done before into turn 1, as Locker drops down to 8th place now, or 7th it should be said. TS9's dropped it? Yeah, he's come back onto the track. He was in the gravel trap. So Locker back up to 7th place in, having been passed by Willy Bum earlier on. Magsy up against Mongo now. Mongo on the new soft tyres, Magsy on the new medium tyres. Surely Mongo's got the advantage here in 4th place, and will now be looking to perhaps get himself onto the podium now, if he can match the pace of Nigel Piggle, who's got that gap down to 3.8 seconds now between him and Snedden. Still a podium very much on the cards for one of these two drivers, it should be said, whoever keeps it cleanest. Let's look at the penalties then at the moment. So Nigel Piggle, importantly at this stage of the race, TJ, has extra 3 seconds worth of penalties to Snedden as well. That might be influencing his factor to push really hard opening here, because he knows he needs to get that gap.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's got to be careful because he's on the faster tyres, and he's more likely to pick up penalties now than he was previously because he's getting that much more quicker. So he's in a catch-22 that he needs to push, but how much do you push and take the risk of picking a penalty up?
Yeah. Snedden knows he's got that 3 seconds to play with, so might just be going a little bit careful even at this point of the race, because Nigel Piggle is perhaps gaining on Snedden at a pace that I would not have expected him to. And as I mentioned, perhaps he knows. Oh, it's just as we mentioned that. Snedden picks up an extra 3 seconds, so now they have the exact same in terms of penalties. We watched a brilliant move by Magsy down into turn 1, it should be said, around the outside of Mongo then, so Magsy back up to 4th place and provisionally on the podium for Williams. Once again, it should be said, a consistent podium finisher so far this season for the Williams team, and perhaps looking to make it a hat-trick for him here around Imola. As we look on the penalties, Locker with 12 seconds as well as TS9, so those two drivers looking like they might struggle to make any inroads on those ahead of them. Nigel Piggle's got the gap down to 2.5 now with 6 to go then.
Yes, I'm just on board with Snedden. He's catching the back of the pack, but he's catching it from the worst point possible. So this is going to play a massive part in this battle for the top plate for the pole here. He's going to catch it through TJ's corner and through the last chicane, and the drivers aren't probably going to get out of the way, so he's going to lose a lot of time here as well.
Nigel Pickle running very wide there through TJ's corner. He probably would have got a warning for that one. 2.2 seconds out the gap. 3 lap old softs on that hard side compared to the 7 lap old mediums of Snedden. When will those soft tyres die off on that hard car? Taint Delate joins us in the chat now and says it will be in 2 laps time apparently. 5 laps in, he's expecting those soft tyres to die off. We'll surely see whether the lap time stops coming down as it is, but Nigel Pickle really is pushing the boundaries of his battery here. 0% in the tank, down into the heavy braking zone of turn 1. Gets a little bit back there, of course, to help him through the final part of sector 1. Mongo now has reclosed the gap to Magsy, but still sits behind the Williams driver in 5th place. But this really now is the battle for the lead. They're the same on penalties, and now will there be a battle on track?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Mr. Whippy might have unintentionally backed Snedden up, which is why Nigel managed to gain some time. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. We've got 5 laps to go. And yeah, you can definitely tell Nigel's tyres are dying. He isn't getting the time he needs to anymore. But I bet he'll get in the DRS, in his DRS zone.
Yeah, it should be said, of course, that with no ghosting on around these non-street tracks, of course, it makes passing back markers a little bit more tricky as well. But Snedden has, as you said, cleared Mr. Whippy, the Red Bull. The next back mark up the road is David Lowface in 12th at the moment, fighting with El Gord for 11th. You imagine that El Gord might get the better of him in that battle on the better tyres then. So 1.4 seconds now the gap. We are going to have an exciting finish here to the Imola Grand Prix, and this is all we could ask for really at the midpoint of the race. We looked like it was going to be a Stonewall Snedden win, but this reverse snap strategy from Nigel Pickle, I think you called it earlier on, TJ, with Snedden going onto soft tyres earlier on. Nigel Pickle looks like he's got the strategy call at this point bang on.
Yeah, definitely. I did wonder why Snedden put the softs on so early. I mean, it does seem like a good idea, but I think purely because, well, Nigel showed the pace he's done in the past, 7 laps to all these 7 now. He's got unbelievable pace compared to medium runners, and with the larger fuel loads and stuff, I think that's the reason why I would have personally chosen to stick mediums on and then come for the softs at the closing stages.
Well, Ted Delate in the chat says, can we see the ERS of Snedden? And it was around 30% and it's gone up now to 35%. So Nigel Pickle drained it again over the line, but still is gaining on the Alfa Romeo then at the moment.
Oh,
Nigel
no.
Pickle, as you could probably tell from TJ's cry, has got another 3-second penalty then.
Another twist in the battle for first. I mean, Nigel's got himself in DRS, and I called it a couple laps ago that Nigel's got the better pace, but he was always at risk of pushing that little bit more because he's got the speed and breaching the track limits, and that's exactly what he's done again.
We called it a couple of times on stream. I think we caught him. I think people in the chat as well actually mentioned they saw Nigel go wide a couple of times. And clearly, yeah, as you mentioned, that's come back to bite him then. So an extra 3-second penalty for the Haas driver. Second place now with a 3-second penalty advantage to Snedden. Has the quali bottle job, just bottled the race in getting those extra penalties. Would have been a good turnaround from him. Will he get Snedden here down into turn 1?
I imagine so. Snedden's not using his DRS, he's saving it. Yeah, Nigel gets through as expected, but he isn't going to build this gap that's required here, so he's purely banking on Snedden getting another time penalty here. As you say, Nigel Ford is potentially bottled his P1 here.
Well, they're both surely going to finish on the podium unless something dramatic happens over these last 2 laps. Nigel Piggle, though, has to build at 3-second gap as it stands to Snedden, but perhaps the Alfa Romeo driver has just played it much more carefully in terms of not fighting Nigel Piggle, keeping the RS so he knows he can keep the gap to him, keeping it clean, and surely Nigel Piggle is not going to gain a 3-second gap in 1 lap.
No, definitely not. And from what Stan's played here, I think he'll get on the DRS straight here. And yeah, it'll just be smooth sailing for him, hopefully. And if the drivers do have it turn 1 side by side, it's nice to clean, and we get the last lap showdown that we've been hoping for here.
Of course, there could always be late drama. We'd have no idea at this point, at least I don't, in terms of how many warnings Snedden is on at the moment. And will he challenge Nigel Piggle down into turn 1 here? No, he thinks better of it. Smart driving again from Snedden. He's very much playing the tactical game at this point, and I think TJ, up until the point in which Nigel Piggle got that extra penalty, we were thinking that Nigel had perhaps played the right move in terms of his strategy today, but getting that extra 3 seconds has really cost him the win almost, and I'm sure we'll hopefully hear his opinion of it on a podium interview very shortly. There is still the last podium position up for debate though, and it is between Maxi and Mongo, separated now by just 0.4 of a second. These two drivers on the same amount of penalties at the moment, so it really is who finishes ahead on track.
Yeah, I mean, I think these guys have been overtaking each other on every single lap. You know, one goes ahead, one goes ahead, and yeah, they've been trading positions, but assuming Maxi keeps it nice and clean here, I imagine he's got the last podium place.
Well, we'll see very shortly though, but there is a bit of a gap between the front two and that third podium place, and Nigel Piggle does win it on track, but Snedden takes it on penalties, and he is the winner of the FPRL Tier 3 Imola Grand Prix on the penalties, as he takes Nigel Piggle by 2 seconds, and Swalzer looks like he's going to finish third on the road, but unfortunately he has got that 12 seconds worth of corner cutting penalty, so he will not finish there. We'll find out his final finishing position very shortly. It is Maxi indeed who comes across the line ahead of Mongo. That battle absolutely incredible between the two of them, as you mentioned, overtaking each other lap on lap. Unfortunately, there was just a little bit of a battle for the lead that we were following a little bit closely over that fight, but Maxi does take it for Williams to complete the hat-trick of podiums, and Swalzer finishes 5th for the Haas team. Willie Bum in 6th place. Laura Locker's favourite driver there over her worst half. Locker unfortunately finishing 7th today. Not a bad drive from him. Perhaps he was hoping for a little bit better maybe, but of course it all depends what happens in the race. But still some good points for the McLaren driver. The AlphaTauris of Adrian and Skivid 8th and 9th, and in 10th place I think it was TS9 or El Gord, one of those two. The professionalism has run out at this point as we watch the podium celebrations. It is indeed, as we mentioned, Snedden on the top step for Alfa Romeo. I think TJ, a driver we was kind of expecting to be right up there in terms of his pace.
Yeah, definitely. I call him in qualifying to finish as P1, and he's just controlled the race from start to finish. Perhaps safety cars could have thrown a few surprises in, and maybe his tracks was room, but he's played it, and yeah, he's got the race win.
Race win for Snedden, race win for Alfa Romeo in Tier 3. They desperately needed that with Track Racer missing today, unfortunately. So it is indeed Snedden who wins the Imola Grand Prix. I should say it's the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, not the Imola Grand Prix. Nigel Piggle, second place for Haas. Third place, Magsy then completing his hat-trick of podiums. Mongo fourth, Swills fifth, Willy Bum sixth, Locker seventh, Adrian eighth, Skiven ninth. It was indeed TS9 who wrapped up the last point for Mercedes in 10th place. Oh god, Mr. Whippy, David Lowface finishing the race, but not finishing with any points, unfortunately. Shout out to Mr. Whippy, the only driver not to pick up a penalty during the race. So well done to you, my friend, even if you didn't get any points. Let's take a quick look at the Twitch chat before we go to the podium interviews. Collateral lads cheering on Dave. You can get Mr. Whippy and Skidmark. That didn't happen, unfortunate then. And a lot of drivers, TJ, we saw that instant between Snedden and Willy Bum. A lot of the drivers thinking that Snedden was at fault there. That'll be interesting to touch on if we can discuss that in the interview to see if he thought he was in the wrong there and perhaps whether he's expecting post-race penalties. Of course, that could happen. Of course, Tainted Lake saying he was wrong with his prediction, and plenty of praise as well for Snedden in terms of reserving his ERS in the fight with Nigel Piggle. We've got two drivers in the party at the moment. Nigel Fraud, come on lads, you can't shy away from me forever. Get in the party, let's get your interview out of the way. Where is he?
He's definitely on the end right, Nigel Fraud.
Come on, Nigel Fraud. Right, let's get him in here. Let's get him in here.
Where is he? Come on, Nigel Fraud. Where are you? Where are you, lad? Oh, he's gone offline. The lad has gone offline.
No, he hasn't.
Oh, no.
Nigel.
He just lost his interview with Fraud.
Unbelievable. Well, you don't need a mic to join the party on the Xbox app, but I like that excuse.
What a class A Fraud.
Well, I expect nothing less from Nigel Fraud.
Lock is asking for any advice for fans.
Well, we look like we have our podium. TJ, do you know a driver I'd love to hear the thoughts of would be Willy Bum. Let's see if we can get Willy Bum in here. Of course, everyone on the stream that was watching saw the incident between Snedden and Willy Bum will know the potential implications of that. I'd love to see a bit of insight from both parties on that one. But while we're waiting to see who we can get into this party, let's continue with the interviews then. So, of course, in P3 today, Magsy, I'll do the little interview with you there. Hat-trick of podiums, I believe, if I'm not wrong. I think I'm getting in a habit of speaking to you on a Wednesday night. I don't speak to any other time, it seems, apart from Wednesdays at the moment. How was that race for you in terms of qualifying? Let's start there from the top, shall we? I think we commented on the fact that you'd not been on the front row, but you had been on the front row in Bahrain. You had the pace at the front here, not quite at the front, of course, with Snedden's absolutely brilliant lap.
That was unbelievable.
What did you think when you saw that lap come up? Did you think you could get anywhere near that?
Well, I thought I could get close. Cause, I've ran a few. I've done a few practices. And I was hitting 1:15.5s. I was getting up there, but it seems I just couldn't even get near it today. So I knew it was there. I think I had to take it for the race in the end.
Yeah, I think you've demonstrated most this season. I mean, I said that I didn't think you'd been on the front row because I was a little bit surprised. Because I usually am used to you being a better racer than you are a qualifier, it should be said. And you proved that again today, to be fair. Third place for you in the race today. Big fight towards the end there with Mongo. I know he was on differing tyres. I believe he was on the mediums and Mongo was on the softs. Did you think you had the disadvantage? Did you think you would finish ahead of him?
No, I had a comfortable feeling that with the tyre degradation around this track, I would have him at the end. And if I just waited my time a little bit and then just attacked with the longer lasting tyre, I could hold him off.
No, you definitely made it work in the end, of course. So congratulations on your podium. Next week is Portimao. You've got a hat-trick of podiums now, mate. I asked you last week whether you're thinking about the championship. Surely now, going into Portimao, you're thinking about trying to get up there in terms of the championship now.
Definitely now, especially after today. I think if I keep this up, I'll be looking for it. Just about consistency now. Can't drop points anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely, and obviously that shifts your mindset as well. I spoke to you last week, of course, because you got the podium in Jeddah. Was you confident coming into Imola? Did you think that this would be one of your, worst performing tracks, or did you think that you would be, kind of on the pace around here?
I think I'm on the pace around here. Probably could be a little bit better, but I was more confident in Jeddah, to say the least. I think, especially after having that disqualification in qualifying, which was still quite surprised, I was still comfortable to get in the points, some good points.
Yeah, of course, that disqualification in qualifying. We did touch on that in terms of your qualifying part of the interview. We saw Liam Cornforth from the middle of the track. I don't know if you caught it a little bit too late and obviously put you off and put yourself into the wall. I think you mentioned in the chat that you were just trying to reverse and kind of carry on your way. Did you just leave it a little bit too late? Is that why it disqualified you, or?
I was both times touching the wall, just trying to turn off the wall, just wouldn't let me. I waited for the next car to come past, and then I tried to go in again, and by that point, I think Michael Matt had enough.
Yeah, sometimes this game is perfect and has no bugs, but it is what it is. But you managed to turn that 10th place into a podium, so congratulations. So well done on that. Hopefully, for your sake, we get to speak to you next week after Portimao. Hopefully, looking forward to that when you're racing there. We'll find out next week. Portimao, is it a track you're looking forward to quickly?
Looking forward to it. Whether I'm good at it is a different story.
No, definitely. But we will find out, obviously, this time next week. So congratulations there. It should be said, unfortunately, we couldn't get Nigel Piggle in for a podium interview. The fraud has shied away from his first podium in FPRL. So we've got Willy Bum in here. I just want to quickly touch upon something with you, Willy Bum, in the race. I wanted to get your visual of the collision with Snedden. We haven't usually done this before in a race, but I feel like it could be such a big thing for the race results. I just wanted to, because you were running a fantastic race, you were right up there, perhaps with a shout of a podium, and then we saw Snedden come past, you were battling with Magsy, of course, and we saw Snedden overtake you on stream. You seemed to Snedden seemed to go around the outside of you and perhaps clip your front tyre and go around. I'm trying to get your perspective on that and perhaps whether you think he was hard done by there.
Yeah, I sat to the inside because I knew he was faster than me. I couldn't really turn in much more, and I think obviously where the pole kind of cuts up a bit, just came in and clipped my front wheel, but I got no damage, just luckily.
He was very lucky, yeah. As mentioned, I think we were running a brilliant race, definitely within a shout of the podium at that point. Magsy finished on the podium. I don't want to get too much, obviously, into the ramifications after the race, of course, because it's all, you could decide, you might take the night to think about things or something like that going into tomorrow, but do you see yourself perhaps protesting that kind of incident, and who do you think was predominantly at fault there? I know you said you were turning inside to the corner, but do you think you could have let up a little bit earlier?
I don't know. I think it was about four of us close together. and it's quite a fast part of the track, so I don't see where I could have let anybody past. But I'll have another look at it and see if it's worth you sending in. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have a look, see if it was just, we just collided. I don't know yet.
No, I appreciate your honesty and appreciate you joining us. I'm sure TJ might have something to add on to that after what I've said there. So I'll hand over to TJ now, who might ask you any remaining questions, and we'll interview our race winner, Snedden.
Yeah, cheers, Bill. So, congrats to you on your podium again. A nice hat trick there, and Peggle scored. Congrats on yours, and hopefully we'll interview next week, Peggle. You're not going to avoid us for much longer. But yeah, so yeah, just I mean, I'm not going to speak up instant really, Bob. I think you've said enough on that already. But I mean, up plans, it looked like you're having a really good race. I mean, did you feel confident around Imola?
Time trial's not too bad. I didn't really get much practice over the last couple of days. Qualifying bottled it, to be honest. But yeah, the hard stuff on while to get used to. But once they did rub in, they were pretty good. And obviously, when I picked for the softs, they were quick, so quite be fast at this lap.
Yeah, I mean, sorry for interrupting. I was going to mention about the softs. I mean, we saw Nigel stick a set softs on and hunt down Snedden, which I'll speak about with Snedden. But the pace advantage for softs side looked unbelievable.
Yeah, I think I was 6 seconds behind Locker at one stage, and I caught him up in about 2 laps. So yeah, they had a lot of pace on. I was lapping at least 3 seconds quicker than I was on the hards. So yeah, it was a lot of pace.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate end to the race, and I imagine you were hoping to battle for a bit of a podium yourself. But we move on to Portimao next week. Are you a fan of Portimao? Have you had much practice on it?
Not a big fan of it. It's a very slippery track. But I'll get some practice in and see how I feel by next week.
That's that's great to hear. I mean, well, I've lost my words here. Apologies. I mean, unfortunate to race, and hopefully we'll speak to you on the podium next week potentially. But I will now turn my attention to this week's race winner, Snedden. Congratulations on your P1.
Yes.
I mean, we'll start with your quali. I mean, that Q3 lap, you absolutely blew it out of the water.
Yeah, I think it's beating my time trial time by a mile. But yeah, because the strategy was always to go first 3 runs in Q3, because I was just really cautious in Q1 and Q2, so I just sent it, and then yeah, it was pretty sick that.
Yeah, you certainly caught the attention of both me and Bedell, and I think a lot of drivers as well. Yeah, it's a fantastic lap in that Steffi at tier 2 pace.
Yeah, quality is mainly my strong point, because what is it, Piggle, he was like there pretty much the whole time in the race. I need to work on my race pace, I think. So yeah, it's pretty good that.
Well, you say you've got work on your race pace, but from our perspective, it looked like you were very much in control of your race pace, and you weren't really challenged much up front.
Yeah, I was just like, because obviously the previous 2 races haven't gone very well, so I was just trying to keep it on the road and not let Piggles catch me up. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I mean, I think it'll be rude not to ask, as Willie comes in, we've already asked him. Obviously, you went for a move on Willie Bum in the double right-handers, which unfortunately was big contact was made potentially, and Willie Bum was spun round. What's your perspective on it?
Yeah, I've been watching it back. I think when we're going into the corner, I think he braked. I don't know if he was trying to like let me pass, and then I just got like put off by that, and I just thought he'd really gone, so I sort of turned in. I should have left it miles more space, but yeah, I held my hands up, and yeah, probably will end up with a penalty, but you know, sorry to Willie Bum.
I mean, that's fair play, you know. I know you've only just watched back, as you mentioned, and you know you probably had your first reaction to it, but fair play for holding your hand up to it and saying you could have give a bit more space. I mean, not many drivers would admit to that, personally.
Yeah, like, it's a fast. There's pretty much only one line through that corner, so I probably should have been a bit more patient, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I think if I turned in later, I would have just gone straight on, but I probably should have done that instead of turning into him. But it's just because he'd got no damage, because then that would have probably ruined his race. But yeah, he probably should be on the podium on that. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, fair play for, you know, admitting to your mistake, and I'm sure Willie Bum, you know, is accept your apology, obviously, and it's nice to, if you're not to try to hide it.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to the racing pass incident, obviously you finished your stint on the mediums, Nigel was on the softs. He had unbelievable pace on the softs. Was there any point where you thought that, you know, that I'm not going to win this?
Yeah, most of the stint, to be honest, because on the first stage I went onto the softs, and I thought I could just try to get a massive gap, because I knew he'd go onto the softs for the last stint, but I think we were both getting penalties for track limits, and I could just see him catching me a second a lap, so I was just trying to save my ERS to try and stand a chance for when he eventually gets it. But then I think he got another 3-second penalty, and I had one warning left, so I was just trying to like not do it and like bottle it on the last lap. So yeah, I was just sweating, just trying to like not exceed the limits and keep him behind.
Yeah, as you like to say, he did pick a late penalty up, and I think at that point, me and Middle both called it that, you know, as long as you kept it clean, you were going to win it. I suppose my final question is, you know, it's we're not to ask it. We move on to Portimao next week. How are you feeling about it?
Probably not good at all. I think I've heard people say that it's one of his best tracks, but that turn 8 as well. That turn 8 catches me out quite a lot, and track limits is not going to go well either. So I'm not really looking forward to it, but probably get a lot of practice in for that. Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, it's I think it's another track the drivers don't like, but hopefully, you never know, we might see the podium next week. But congratulations on your win, Snedden. You are race winner today.
Yeah, for now.
As you say, we'll wait see what the stewards say, which the results will be released over the weekend, I imagine. So watch this space. But I'll pass back to Biddle now.
Thank you for that, TJ. Thank you, guys, for joining for the podium interviews, and Willie Bum as well, to give your perspective on your race and the incident. Of course, as Steddon says, provisionally he is the race winner for Imola in Tier 3. The action doesn't stop there this week, though. We have got a race tomorrow, same time, 8 PM GMT. Tier 1 guys who will show us how it's done around the track tomorrow, and the Tier 2 boys take us out on Friday as well, ahead of Portimao next week for Tier 3. So thank you again, guys. Congratulations on the podium. Thank you, TJ, for joining me once again. Hopefully I get to sit alongside you next Wednesday as well. So that's all for tonight, but it definitely isn't all for this week. So join us tomorrow, same time, for the Tier 1 race around Imola.